All right, first up this morning, some kids started school yesterday, which is so early.
Yeah,
Can't
oh my
believe
gosh.
it. Some will be going back to school soon. So for parents, the big debate begins. Should they get their child a cell phone?
Yeah, and phones can be useful tools in education and safety, but they can also be a major distraction. So this is definitely a big question I have. Dr. Melissa Westendorf is the co-founder of the Technology and Wellness Center, and she's here with important questions parents should ask themselves before they get their child a cell phone.
Big debate.
Yes, big
Big
debate.
Good to see you.
It's nice to see you as well.
Yeah. So I guess the big question is, you know, what should you consider before getting your kid a phone?
Well, there's a lot of things to consider. I mean, sometimes I wonder if I'm old enough for a phone yet, to be honest with you. Yeah, the responsibility is enormous.
Dropping mine all the time anyway.
Right, exactly. So, but, you know, so it's always a big debate. When should I get my kid a phone? Like, what should I look to? And so there's some, you know, the expense, all that sort of stuff. But there are some questions you can ask yourself that might help guide whether or not your child is ready for the cell phone.
Okay.
You know, so one of the first things is how do they treat their own expensive items? They probably have had iPods or Kindles or, you know, like some kind of device, and how do they treat that particular device? Because when you go to a cell phone, it's much more expensive.
Yeah, and like Lauren said, if you're dropping it, you're breaking it instantly.
And the insurance is, you know, so right,
These phones
exactly.
are so expensive these days.
Right, exactly. The other thing you can look at is you have to remember there's opportunities for them to spend money on them in apps. So how are they with money? You know, do they save their, you know, I'm not asking for them to balance a bank account, but you know,
Can they handle it?
Can they handle it? Can they save money? Can they not spend that money? A big one that sometimes I think people forget is how do they handle social cues? Like, do they understand, and this is by listening when they talk about their friends, do they understand the normal social cues that go on? Because you have to remember, on a phone with texting and media, social media, like you miss that element. So if they struggle in person.
Like what would be a good example of a social cue?
So like if they don't get when somebody's angry with them or if somebody maybe thinks that they've said something kind of mean and they don't understand that what they've said is mean. And so parents who have kids who struggle in that area, you'll recognize it over time as you just listen to them and see them interacting with their kids. So that's a consideration to think about. You know, you want them to be a little more mature then.
You also want to know if they're savvy in general about technology. That's number 4 on your list.
Yeah. So I mean, are they going to lock themselves out of their phone right away and then you can never get into it again, or
click on things, or go on
things
you know, on Google when they're going searching things maybe they should.
All those spam emails. Will they click on the link and then because download a virus and then so that can lead to all sorts of problems too. So are they tech savvy, or can they learn those things easily?
All right, your last on that 5 is handle limits on other technology.
Right,
What does
so
that mean?
so consider on if they already have a Kindle or an iPad or an Xbox, how do they react to you when you set those limits? Because let me tell you, the phone is a lot harder, right? It's in their hand, it's in their pocket. It's much harder to contain that use, I believe. From my own experience in my own house, it's much harder to contain. So those are those considerations, and if all of it seems relatively easy, then maybe go ahead. 10, 12, middle school. I know that's about the age when everybody. Well, they actually wanted in elementary school.
I mean, I got mine in like 8th grade. I
think,
but it was so different. It had like a few buttons. And that's it.
Right.
They didn't have them till I was in college. So. They didn't
I'm not even going to say. I'm not even going to say.
Right, I know. We all have a different, experience on cell phones. But I think it's so interesting how kids do. They grow up. They're using them as kids. They're using mom or dads, and so it's not like they haven't often played with a phone under supervision.
Yeah, right. I mean, you don't want your kids to be tech stupid either, right? I mean, they do need to know something about technology. Now, if they're younger and you really, really, really think, I need to be able to get a contact with them, all companies have phones that are built just for little kids or even middle school kids, that don't have all those other features.
So let's do what are some of the rules that you put in place initially? Is it time limits specifically? That's gotta be number 1.
Right. So I always encourage people to do a contract when they do the phone. And in fact, in our household, the kids help establish that contract. So they're invested, relatively speaking, in the contract.
I'll say, because I remember talking with a child about this, and I feel like they set actually stronger rules for themselves sometimes than you think of doing.
Right.
Probably because they don't understand time as well. So they're like, I can get 10 minutes here, and you're kind of like, that's perfect.
Sure.
We'll set the timer, see how that goes.
Exactly.
Right. So it's all the things I've talked about before in terms of, limits and how much money can they spend, or does the money come out of their bank account or from their allowance? What apps? You need to know the passwords, and that if they won't give you the password or they change it, well, then you take the phone, right? And, what's going to happen if they lose it or it breaks? So those are just some of the things you want to really think about when you set that contract up.
That's a great point.
Definitely.
Yeah, so also the last thing I want to mention, because you say there should be some tech-free times. I know Molly's a big believer, and I think she might have even learned it from you, of no cell phones in the bedroom. And I think clearly most people also should know no cell phones at the table, right?
Yeah, right. When you're eating, the cell phone shouldn't be there, because even if, so I get the argument, well, I'm just eating by myself, but I'm in the room,
right?
Sorry.
There's people here.
Sorry.
Communicate. Talk to me. Another human.
Exactly.
And you got to teach conversational skills as well. So
right. So definitely establish those tech-free times and get them on board with that.
So you can go to our website if you want to see this or send it to somebody in your life who's considering a cell phone for their little one, themorningblend.com for more.